The approach to Everlight felt different. Unity had welcomed them with open plains, rivers, and rolling hills. Everlight felt older, not ancient, just wiser. The golden world filled the ship's forward viewport as they descended through its atmosphere. Massive cloud formations glowed softly beneath the sunlight. Entire mountain ranges stretched from horizon to horizon. Great oceans reflected the sky like molten gold. The planet seemed almost unreal. Aurora stood beside the glass with Meatball perched awkwardly against her leg. The route keeper had somehow become a permanent passenger despite several official objections from Mira's settlement paperwork. He's not supposed to be here. Mira glanced up from her datapad. He's listed as agricultural consultant. Aurora grinned. Pines coughed into his fist. The moment lasted less than a second. Quick, subtle, almost invisible. But Aurora noticed. Something dark stained his palm before he quickly wiped it onto his pants. Nobody else seemed to see. The old Reaper casually folded his arms afterward as though nothing had happened. Aurora frowned slightly. He looked tired. Not exhausted, not weak. Just different. The last few days she'd noticed small things. He slept longer, moved slower, spent more time staring out windows, more time lost in thought. It wasn't dramatic, just enough for somebody who knew him well to notice. "You all right?" Pines glanced over, immediately smiling. "Course." His answer came too quickly. Aurora studied him. "You sure, kid?" He laughed. "I'm old." "That's not what I asked." Pines shrugged. "Long flight." Aurora wasn't convinced, but she let it go, for now. The ship continued descending. Everlight grew larger, and eventually, the landing thrusters engaged. The landing zone overlooked one of the most beautiful landscapes any of them had ever seen. The ramp lowered, warm air rolled into the ship. The group stepped outside. Nobody spoke. Not immediately, because there wasn't much to say. Everlight was breathtaking. Golden grass swayed across endless valleys. Massive silver trees stretched toward the sky. The mountains in the distance appeared almost white beneath the sunlight. Crystal rivers wound through forests like veins of light. Even the air smelled different. Fresh, sweet, alive. Plum finally broke the silence. "What?" A pause. Another pause. "Hell." Ellie nodded. Reasonable reaction. Aurora laughed. Mira was already taking notes. Pines simply stared. Quietly, the old Reaper looked like somebody seeing a dream. The first few hours were spent exploring, surveying, learning, getting lost repeatedly because Plum insisted maps were guidelines. The wildlife proved just as fascinating as Unity's. Tiny golden birds flew between trees, leaving brief trails of glowing dust. Large grazing creatures wandered peacefully through open valleys. One herd actually stopped and watched the group pass before continuing on. Meatball attempted introducing himself. The larger animals ignored him. This offended him deeply. Aurora laughed for nearly 10 minutes. By afternoon they discovered a river, not unusual until they followed it. The water gradually became brighter, glowing. Not intensely, just enough to notice. The farther upstream they traveled, the stronger it became. Evening approached. The sky began shifting toward orange. The river continued glowing, soft blues, purples, silvers. Eventually, the terrain opened. The sound reached them first. Water, powerful water, thunderous water. Then they saw it, and nobody moved. The waterfall towered hundreds of meters above the valley floor. A massive curtain of luminous water cascaded from towering cliffs. The water itself glowed. Not one color, many, soft blues, violet, silver, hints of gold. The entire falls looked alive. Mist drifted through the valley below. Every droplet reflected light, creating a dreamlike glow across the surrounding landscape. The effect was impossible. Beautiful. The kind of beauty that silenced people, even Plum. The group slowly approached the edge overlooking the basin below. Nobody spoke. Nobody wanted to ruin it. Aurora stood there absorbing the view, then noticed somebody wasn't beside them. Pines. The old Reaper stood a few meters away, completely still, staring. His eyes never left the waterfall. Tears streamed openly down his face. A small smile rested there too. Not sadness. Not exactly. Something deeper, something older. Aurora watched him quietly, then walked over. The others followed. Nobody interrupted. Eventually they stood beside him. Together. Watching the glowing water, Pines swallowed. His voice emerged rougher than usual, beautiful, Nobody disagreed. The old reaper wiped at his eyes, failed. Another tear escaped, then another. He laughed softly at himself. That color. Aurora looked toward the falls, the silver-blue glow, the violet edges, the shimmering mist. Pines smiled through tears. Lyra loved that color. The group became quiet. The mention of her name always changed the air. Not because it hurt, because it mattered. Pines continued staring. Would have driven me bloody insane. Plum smiled. Why? 'Cause she'd want to study it. He laughed, the memory clearly vivid. Wouldn't leave for days. Another tear rolled down his cheek. Would have filled 20 notebooks. Mira smiled softly. Ellie looked away. Aurora simply listened. Pines stood there watching the waterfall. Watching something Lyra would never see. Something she would have loved. The realization settled heavily across the group. Not painful, just honest. Aurora looked at the waterfall, looked at Pines, looked back at the glowing cascade, then quietly stepped closer. She reached over, took his hand. The old reaper looked down, confused. Aurora squeezed gently, then spoke 2 words, simple words, soft words, words that hit harder than anything else could have. Lyra Falls. Silence. Pines froze. The waterfall thundered below, the mist drifted through the air, the valley glowed, and something inside the old reaper broke beautifully. A sound escaped him, half laugh, half sob. Then another. Tears poured freely. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Aurora. The girls had never seen him do that, not once, not in 4 years, not ever. The old reaper held her tightly, like he was afraid to let go, like he was holding every memory at once. Aurora hugged him back immediately. Pines cried openly. No walls, no mask, no sarcasm. Just grief. Love. Memory. A lifetime. Through tears he managed. Like the sun's. Aurora smiled through tears of her own, holding him tighter. Like the sun's, Uncle Pines. The old reaper laughed, then cried harder. Behind them, Plum quietly wiped her eyes. Ellie pretended she wasn't crying. Failed. Mira openly sobbed. Nobody teased anyone. Nobody joked. The moment deserved better than that. So they simply stood together. Watching the glowing waterfall. Watching Pines remember. Watching Lyra live for a little while longer through stories and memories. Above them, the evening sky darkened. The waterfall continued shining. The mist continued drifting. And beneath the glow of Everlight's most beautiful wonder, Lyra Falls received its name, a name that would endure long after all of them were gone.